Welcome to the M26 FIT Podcast, where we explore the connection between having a strong mind and a strong body. Okay, today's guest is Katie Stevens, WBFF Bikini Pro, innovator, entrepreneur, successful business owner. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Magnus. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Before we get into body sculpting and your multiple businesses, could you share a little bit of your backstory for us?
All right, how long have we got? I'll keep it brief. Funnily enough, I always draw back to business as the first thing, but I know that business isn't just what defines me, but it certainly is a lot of what I know, who I know, and why I am who I am. So about me is I'm currently living on the Gold Coast. I've been in Brisbane for the last 10 years and I made the move from the city to the beach life, almost a year ago now, just to mix it up a bit. And I don't know. I'm used to speaking about everyone else other than myself. So I guess I'm always, a creative. I'm always looking for opportunities. I love meeting people. And I'd say a couple of my highest values is like connecting with people and love. Is that okay to start with?
Absolutely. Whereabouts on the Gold Coast did you end up?
Down at Mermaid Beach.
Lovely.
Yeah, right on the beach there. It's nice. Little local spot. It's not too busy. It's good.
Yeah, the Gold Coast lifestyle. Beautiful.
Yeah,
So you competed internationally in the WBFF as a bikini pro. I'm curious, how did you get into that and what exactly is involved from a training perspective?
Yeah, so I guess growing up, my parents actually owned a gym when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. So I was always in the health and fitness space from that perspective, or at least business. And at the time, I had a promotional modelling agency and we ran a lot of in-house like model competitions and local searches. And naturally, I'm quite competitive. I've grown up playing sport, basketball, dancing, and all that sort of stuff. And I was looking for like the next, what can I compete in? What can I do? I love the basketball. I love all that sort of stuff. And seeing all these models and these model comps, I was really inspired to do something like that. But it was obviously a conflict of interest, being that I owned the promotional modelling agency that facilitated them. So I guess if I did well, it would be pretty rigged, right? So I actually went to a friend that was competing and watched the show that they did. And I literally was in the audience and so inspired by seeing these athletes work so hard to get to peak condition that they were on that day, seeing their family and friends supporting them. And I just set myself a goal and I literally looked at everyone on stage and the beautiful women up there, and they had the gorgeous bikinis on, they were all tanned, they were living their best life, feeling healthy, strong and fit. And I was like, that's going to be me next year. So I set myself the goal and I started in a different federation at the time, and I caught a bit of a competing bug, where I become obsessed. It's like anything that I love, I really wanted to sort of delve into it. And I competed in the first federation and learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about my body, got myself a coach, and then I wanted to see what else was out there. So I sort of bounced around between a few different federations until I found the WBFF, and it was just unlike any other federation I'd competed with. It was just WBFF, for those that don't know, stands for World Beauty, Fitness and Fashion. So it actually houses all the components of what I like to say is like the Victoria's Secret meets fitness. So it's like the pinnacle of both, where you get a lot of stage time, but it's also about, the creativity, the markability, as well as obviously your physique. So I become obsessed and then went on my journey to compete for a number of years, and then set myself a goal of getting my pro title. So I think I'd done maybe 3 or 4 shows with the WBFF at that point in Australia. And then I went on to Vegas back in 2015, and I was an amateur at the time, so I was representing Australia in the Pro-Am at their world titles and competed, and that's when I won first place, and that's when I was crowned my pro status with WBFF, and that was, going back to 2015 now.
Wow, that's a fair old title.
Yeah. Well, and then you sort of get to that title, and then naturally, me being me, I'm like, okay, so what's next? So I come back and I sit down with my coach, and I was actually talking to Matt. He I'd consider a mentor of mine, and he runs Peak Sports and Spine, and he helped my body get in really good condition and make sure I was obviously preventing any injuries leading to stage. And I remember winning the pro title, and I had a bit of a holiday after, and I come back to Australia and he's like, well done, like how'd you feel? What was that, that moment when you won the title? And I was like, yeah, look, man, I think my shoulders could have been a little bit broader and my waist could have been a bit smaller. So next time we need to, he's like, whoa, Katie, like, just hang on a second. Like, let's just digest this, you know, which obviously like taught me a lot about being in the moment and present and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Not just the competitive side, but the community that it brought together as well. So I sort of went on and did my first pro debut, which was in Toronto the following year and went on from there.
Yeah. So what was next after that?
Well, I guess once I hit pro status, I sort of sat down with my coach and I sort of looked at what my goals were. And then once I'd achieved them, I was like, well, what is next? And I guess for me in my field, I was running businesses. I still had other areas of my life that weren't just completely solely focused on fitness. And, you know, as it is that competing can be a very selfish sport. It takes up a lot of time. Obviously, my focus from my business was put into fitness, and I sort of had to make that choice in my career. It's like, well, do I go down the path of becoming, you know, a PT and coaching other people and, you know, their journey to stage, or do I use this as a bit of a pivotal moment where I can still be involved with the WBFF but potentially not compete anymore? Because I do love the business side of it. So I was actually fortunate enough to be able to still stay on board with them even to this day. And I now have WBFF Beauty, which is a business that I created within their company where I facilitate all the makeup artists and hairstylists, which are the creatives that help all the athletes get prepped for stage with all their glitz and glam. And then I help out on the red carpet and host the big world titles events and get to do a bit of traveling as well. So it kind of like ticks a lot of boxes.
Wow, going from strength to strength, that must be exciting.
Yeah, it's good. It's not an everyday part of my life, but it's cool to still be a part of it because you still get to see, and obviously when you're part of that sort of community, you get to see the journey of your friends that are going through that comp prep stage. And as much as I go through phases and waves where I really miss it, I'm like, oh, I wish I was, you know, getting to that peak condition again. And you know, I guess we've all got goals and timelines, and I kind of can still dabble and, like, I guess have that fulfillment in that area of my life. But then I still have the space where I can focus on my other businesses and other, you know, personal relations and things.
So speaking of other businesses, so Minding, her business, Sprayed, and you've obviously got a few others. Could you give us a brief insight into those for us?
Yeah, it's funny. I like to say my life's like organised chaos because people will say, oh, Katie, you've got Minding Her Business, which is like a women's networking events business that I facilitate for women that are in startups or perhaps they have an idea to start a business. And I sort of cultivate an event where I'll have between 150 to 350 women come and they'll be inspired by like an empowering speaking panel. They'll get to network. We've got all those sorts of elements and I've sort of hosted them around Australia. And then I've got a couple of other businesses in beauty. So I've got my newest venture, which is Sprayed, which I've got 2 locations now. I've just opened my recent one in Mermaid Beach, and it's an automated spray tanning and light therapy business. So I guess the idea came post-COVID, or during COVID, I should say, was born post-COVID, and that was when everything got locked down. I was like, how do women and men feel confident in their skin? How do you still have those beauty appointments when there's no beauty salons to go to? You know, everything has to be contactless. And obviously when you don't feel good in your skin, you don't feel confident in who you are, that becomes to be a snowball effect for your mental health and so many other areas of your life. So that took a good part of a year to 18 months to just build up the idea and the actual business model itself. And I have a background in beauty, obviously, so it was perfect. So I've got a cosmetic tattooing business and a couple of others. But to bring it all together, the easiest way I always sort of describe my businesses is that they all have different offerings, but they're the same demographic and clientele for men and women that want to feel confident in their skin and then achieve greatness. Yeah, if that summarizes it. I try and like condense everything, but just off air when we were chatting earlier, I'm like, how long have we got? Because that's probably something I'm always working on is like, you know, cutting it down shorter, being brief.
Very, very exciting, and no wonder you're so busy.
Yeah, busy but productive.
Exactly, yeah. All right, let's jump into the M26 in 26, those 26 questions in 26 minutes. You ready?
Okay, 26 minutes. Okay, let's go.
Okay, the smartest person you've sat in a room with and why?
Ooh, okay. The smartest person. I feel like you can't just put that into one category because there's so many different smarts to me. But I'm going to say I've been lucky enough to be in the room with the likes of and learning from people like Tony Robbins, Cohen Ray, Janine Ellis. I met Roger Federer. He was super cool just listening to the way and his demeanour. So the smartest person I would say would cultivate a bit of all of them, from psychology to mindset. Do I have to pick one?
No.
I think anyone that inspires me, I mean, they're probably smart in their own way. I guess we were talking about this before. It's like when you're smart in one area, you usually got a weakness in another. Yeah. So I feel like I just pull from different people.
That's a pretty impressive list to be in a room with those people, though.
Yeah, I think, well, Roger Federer was probably right time, right place, because I was in the corporate suite and his wife was in there at the tennis and at the Aussie Open, and the others if I can be honest, I'm a massive personal development junkie. So I've been to a lot of seminars and you take what you will from each of them, but they're all in their own right super successful and smart in different areas of life. Yeah.
Agreed. The most important lesson that you've ever learned?
I'm still learning this one, Magnus, and I'm going to say it's patience. I feel like patience is something that certainly pays off when you have, that paired with a bit of consistency and perseverance. But over my career, and whether it be like competing or even in business, I feel like when I've slowed down and had patience for the right thing to come along, or even if I've had an adversity to really just process it and not just go a bullet a gate, which I've been renowned to do when I was younger, I would say the biggest lesson, and I constantly draw back to it. So patience is a key component to something that I'm always working on.
I have to agree with that, and I'm still working on it too. Yeah. So, but it's like you pointed out, it's just getting to that rather than pushing for something, that you just it's a little bit more of a pull. So you just take that step back and reflect, and things can come to you rather than trying to force them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. It's hard though. It's very hard, especially when you want everything yesterday.
Exactly. Describe your definition of discipline.
Discipline. Okay. This is a hard one. So discipline is like the superhero cape to like productivity. So I feel that to have discipline, you have to have control. You have to have control in your decisions. You have to know the art of, or have the ability to say no. And discipline can come and go, and we're not always going to be disciplined. But I think for me, having discipline can literally decipher a dreamer to a doer, or an achiever to a wishful thinker, if that simplifies it. I think that discipline is not something that I have 24/7, but it's certainly something that I have the right tools to go back to reassess. And without discipline, I don't believe you can achieve everything and anything in life.
Well put. What are you grateful for?
Health. My health. Today, actually. This is an amazing opportunity. Gratefulness is something that I've really strongly got into a heavy practice and ritual maybe in the last 2.5 years. I went through a pretty tough time, especially in COVID. I would say I'm an ambivert personality. I'm so extrovert when I'm out. I love people, connections, learning about different people's journeys and ways and minds and how they work and everything in between. But I also love to be introvert. And throughout, that pandemic, we were all put into a lot of isolation. So that sort of took a massive toll, especially where I was at in my relationship at that time. And I think that's probably something that I really learned to be grateful for, is to, we can focus on those negative things in life, the things that are heavy, the things that are hard, the things that slow us down, the things that feel dark. And I was in a really dark place. And I think when I turned to the gratefulness, even when I didn't feel grateful for anything, I was like, if I can out loud say 3 things, if it's the food I'm eating right now, if it's the phone call that my mum gave me in the morning, if it's, my dog, the walk with my dog at the park, could be such simple things. But, I don't know the statistics on it, but I was actually listening to a podcast only just last week, and there's a statistic about if you are genuinely grateful and you bring gratefulness and gratitude into your life, it boosts your serotonin levels, which is like, your happy hormone and things like that. It has a huge impact on your mindset, how you think, how you feel your body. There's so many snowball effects in a positive way as to how gratitude can really change your life and your trajectory. So But you know what? Without your health, you have nothing. Yeah. So I'd probably say the biggest thing I'm always grateful for, I'm more grateful for my health, which I shouldn't be, but I'm more grateful for my health when I feel sick or when I'm run down. I'm like, I should have been more grateful for my health then. But yeah, it's definitely top number one.
Too true. And I practice those gratitudes every single day. So yeah, and like you said, health is everything. Health is wealth.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better. Health is wealth. I like that.
The greatest decision that you've ever made?
I think naturally, what was the question? The greatest decision?
Yeah.
Naturally, I'm thinking about the not so great decisions because they're the ones that have the really big impact on the not so positive way. Greatest decision. Cliche, but when I back myself. Greatest decision I ever make is when I question myself, when I sit there, when I and ah, things don't seem to ever work out the way I planned. So when I let other outside influence in, when I let other people question, why would you do that? Or what about this? Or, the whole talk of, I'm going to start a new business. Well, what if you don't have time or you can't afford it? Or what if it doesn't? What if it fails? What if you go bankrupt? What if I don't? So I think it's backing myself. And I've had to learn the older I get, the more, even though you can have accountability partners and people that can drive you or motivate you, is no one is really going to keep you accountable like you are yourself. So I would say backing myself.
Trusting your instincts.
Yeah. And intuition, definitely. Yeah. Intuition plays a huge role in who you work with, how you work, how you see the world.
Definitely. You're the most practical advice that you've ever received.
My most practical advice. Okay, I'm just trying to think now. Because being a Pisces, I'm not always the most practical. But when it comes to advice, I would say it's probably the 5x5 rule. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so what it is they talk about the 5x5 rule is simple. It's like if you come to a situation or a scenario and it's a complete stressor and it's putting you in a mindset funk, if you want to call it, ask yourself this question. If it's not going to impact or affect your life in 5 years' time, then don't spend more than 5 minutes stressing about it. It's like, get the shit out. Think about it, put it on the table. If something doesn't work out or, things have gone sideways, it's not how it was planned, it's out of your control, so to speak, I'll bring myself back to the 5x5 rule. Okay, cool. This has gone wrong. This is huge. It could be anything from a fit out to one of my new studios to something happening with my team members to in my personal life. It's like, first question is it in my control? Second one, when it comes to advice, would be, okay, ask myself that question. Is this going to impact my life in 5 years' time? No, it's not. This is just a shit time right now. Okay, great. Let's just get it all out, talk about it, vent, write it down. If you can't talk to the person about it, whatever, spend 5 minutes on it. That's it. And then it gets pushed aside.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, 5x5 rule.
Perfect. What drives you, Katie? What gives you inspiration?
What gives me inspiration? I'm going to say back to love and connection. I'm constantly motivated by people that I meet. I'm constantly inspired by achieving greatness. So in one word, I'd say I'm inspired by results. And I think at the end of the day, we all can make choices in life depending on what goal we want to achieve. And you set out that goal, again, whether it be being an elite athlete in your field, in your industry, or being a hugely successful entrepreneur or business owner or a mom, a parent, a poor parent, whatever, is that there are all these steps to get there. Everything is a journey, and you're going to have adversities. You're going to have, obstructions. You're going to have obstacles, so to speak. You're going to have all these things in your way. But when it comes back to, feeling inspired intrinsically or extrinsically, it's like, what makes you tick? What gets you up every day? And for me, the goals that I set, the results that I will have if I achieve those goals is inspiring. So if I break that down to smaller steps to get there, is that will keep me motivated. That will keep me inspired. I have a few little ways and means to keep me inspired, because I'd be lying if I say I just woke up every day feeling inspired and motivated and ready to take over the world. I would say that if I'm in a real funk and just a negative mindset, or I haven't trained or I haven't been eating well, I would literally jump on YouTube and I would type in motivational video, and usually me and my lifestyle, I have 5 minutes and that's it to give to this because I'm on to the next thing. And I would type in 5-minute motivational speech or video, and I would listen to that and I would hear the words and I'd feel the feels. And they say that when you're in that state and you're changing your physiology, that your mind actually goes into a state of transcendence. So when you're thinking about what's hard, you're focusing on what's hard. If you're thinking about what's easy and how to get there, then your mindset only knows that. And as much as our brain is a really powerful tool and it's really strong, and as some say, the mind's a muscle, is that when you focus on the good gets better, right? So if you can put your physiology or your mindset into that positive state, which isn't possible 24/7, but if you put yourself into that state, or if you have the tools to know how to shift that mindset at the right time, then you can go into those, state of transcendence, where you do believe that you can achieve greatness. So yeah, I would say that if I'm feeling a little lull, I would probably do steps like that, or come back to gratefulness and gratitude, things I'm grateful for. And I just like to trick my mind, because if I focus on it, it's where your energy goes. Focus goes, energy flows, right? Yep. So that's what I'd probably say is that's what would inspire me, would be results, and then going onto YouTube if I needed to find inspiration. I'm fortunate that I've got a really strong network of people that are doing really cool things in their own rights in business. So if I feel stuck, or especially starting a new business, and, even with Sprayed at the moment, the first studio I opened almost 2 years ago, and the most recent is, only 6 months old. And every single day I'm creating new systems and technology that never existed. It's 24/7, from an app on your phone is what gives you access to this studio. So we're not staffed 24/7. So putting, hoping that technology will work out for you, and putting your bets on technology, doing the right thing, is really stressful, because technology is a blessing and a curse on the best of days. But, I have days where I'm like, nah, this is just too hard, throw the towel in. And then I have these tools that I'm like, right, okay, I've learnt these tools for a reason. I know that I can get out of this mindset. Let's go, write these things down. If it still doesn't work, I find that I'll get inspiration from actually just moving my body. Yeah. Physically just moving. Get on a treadmill. Start thinking about something else. Yeah.
I was going to say, that works for me. Some sort of physicality snaps me out of a poor state.
Yeah. I know they say, and I don't know what the statistics are, but, having an argument with your partner or whatever, and two people have heightened emotions, it's like the female deal with it by crying, and that releases, the hormones to have them back into somewhat a balanced state. That's their release. Whereas men and their testosterone levels tend to actually disperse that same hormone by actually physically running or sweating or just getting that anger out. It's so weird how different male and female work, but yeah, it's funny how it just in general across female and male, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, moving the body just changes your physiology. So it changes your state.
Yep. Who did you look up to as a child?
Easy. Parents.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think when you're young, or for me when I was young, they were my idols, and they couldn't be further than different as far as yin and yang. So they complemented each other. My dad was like, just run 1,000 miles, say yes, and work the rest out later. My mum is like ultra composed. She's, thinking about the process. She's, a lot more process driven, which is good balance, because it's like if I listened to Dad and every bit of advice he gave me, I'd probably make a hell of a lot of mistakes, which we all do anyway, but they could be really, really, really big. And then listening to my mum's advice, it helped balance me out just to process that, a lot more, think about things, know my numbers, work all that sort of stuff out along the way, whether it be business or, fitness career or whatever. But my idols, I'd probably say I looked up to my parents.
Your favourite saying?
Okay, quotes. Okay, so we're talking about idols and parents, and I've said this one a few times on different interviews and podcasts over the time, is that distinctively it stands out to me that I was at a bit of pivotal crossroad in my career, and I was questioning myself, and I had a lot of noise and other people's opinions, and I remember calling Dad, and I was like, Dad, I just don't know what to do. And he said, and he laughs because he's like, I don't even remember saying it, and he literally said, well, if you don't take a chance, then you don't stand a chance, right? And I was like, whoa, mic drop. If you don't take a chance, you don't stand a chance. how many times, if you want to call it fail or learn or lesson or whatever, how many times you could get knocked down and stand back up but still have that opportunity to succeed is like unsurpassable to the fact of I coulda, shoulda, woulda, but didn't. So that's probably one quote that sticks like in my head. I have another one actually, and this comes to like my creative juices flowing and wanting to like, whether it's, you know, start a business or to, you know, set myself another goal, or whether it be, you know, we were talking about before with doing a triathlon or a marathon or something like that, is that if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. If you can visualize it and how it's going to be, you can absolutely make that come to life. So in saying that, I'm a little bit obsessed when it comes to quotes, but I certainly don't just like sticking and plastering random things everywhere and anywhere. I love things to be relative to me. So I've got like a little quote next to my mirror in my bathroom that I read when I'm brushing my teeth during the day and at night. And then I've got a sticker, "You are strong," that's on the bottom of my mirror when I'm getting ready. And I'll just get dressed and I'll walk out the door and I'll always read it and I'll just say it a couple of times out loud, like, you are strong, you are strong, you are strong. Like, you're capable of doing anything. Even though I might be like totally thinking opposite at the time or stressed with, you know, what I've got my workload on for the day. Quotes can be powerful if you ingrain them in your lifestyle. I think they're probably loosely thrown around different sayings and, you know, motivation and inspiration. But relative to me, if you don't take a chance, you don't stand a chance. And if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
A couple of crackers.
Yeah. Couple there.
What do you love and what are you really passionate about?
The first thing that comes to mind, well, what do I love? I love love. And I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about hearing people's stories, and if it is a story based on adversity, then I want to learn what that opportunity is that comes with that. And, you know, there's so many times in life we can feel sorry for ourselves, or, you know, we can just get the shit end of the stick, so to speak. But hearing and learning from other people's stories, it's nice to reflect and even go, you know what, my life isn't so bad, or I've got my own obstacles in life and maybe they could be absolutely monumental to other people, but they're not so big to me, or vice versa. My problems and things that I'm overcoming could be monumental and other people are like, don't worry, I went through that 10 years ago. And I love connections. So I would say, yeah, people, actually hearing people set goals, want to achieve greatness, want to, even just that mindset barrier, sitting there and people saying to me, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, just more so for my inner circle through business and across branding and marketing, and hearing people say, like, I've hit this dollar figure, you know, turnover, and I just can't push past it. And I'm like, well, no, you can't with that mindset. So let's work out how we can. And just breaking through that mindset to see people, you know, doing what they actually know that they really, truly are capable of.
Getting rid of those limiting beliefs.
100%. Yeah. It's actually probably an obsession. To be honest, I was just telling a friend the other day, she was like, what offends you? And I was like, well, when I have people that come to me, and I feel like sometimes I'm in a, I don't know whether I just have a sign on my forehead that says pitch a business idea to me, but I'm always at different networking events, and I find that a lot of people, and maybe it's because of the businesses that I have, and especially with Minding Her Business, is that I'll find that people that I've never met before will say, Katie, look, I want to pick your brain, or I've got this business idea. What do you think? And I'll hear them set out and, you know, tell me their idea, and then they'll launch the business or whatever. But there's people that will come to me and they'll say, if they've know I've competed or whatever, they'll say, oh, that's really good that you know, got your pro card and you've competed and, you know, blah, blah. Oh, I tell you what, I've got to lose weight. I'm going to start Monday. I'm going to lose 10 kilos. And then, you know, you might see their tracking and nothing ever changes. And they might even be your friends. And I was saying to my girlfriend, I was like, well, I actually feel like I'm being lied to. I'm like, don't tell me something if you're not going to do it. And that's a me problem, because I shouldn't take offense to other people setting out their goals and not achieving them. But I'm a strong believer that if you want to achieve it, you actually can. But saying it out loud doesn't change anything. You've got to do the work. And that's probably the hardest thing. And that's in business. Anyone can look the part. Anyone can jump on the gram and have their hair and makeup done. And, you know, you see 10 Instagram stories or whatever of someone's life. That is like 5 minutes of their 24-hour day. So, you know, it's the whole iceberg, you know, analogy is the tip of the iceberg of the success is all that shit that goes on behind the scenes to get to that goal is usually a really messy path.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Okay, 3 words. Curious. I'm always curious. Some would say I'm energetic. Some would say I'm too much. Curious, energetic. I'm a disruptor. I like to see the way things are, and I want to see how I can change things for greater good. I guess my brain essentially, I feel like sometimes thinks differently. My partner and I, Luke, will talk all the time of like, he sees things so black and white. And I'm like, but there's layers. And if it works like this, but what about this? And, it's interesting. And maybe that's just male to female. I don't know. But energetic. Wait, what did I say? Energetic. Curious. Disruptor. Yeah. I'd say let's leave it at those 3.
Okay. What are your goals and aspirations? Maybe if I just put it down to 2, maybe a personal one and a business one.
Impact more lives. Yeah. Everything else will come in business, and I've obviously got a lot of strategies and excited about some really big things and campaigns that we're hitting off this year, but to impact more lives positively, whether that be, having our members and clients at Sprayed and across my other brands feel confident in their skin, or whether it be through my events business, my and her business, of people, setting out those goals, starting those new businesses, finding, new ways of making different income streams and things that they're passionate about. In my personal life, obviously being recently engaged, I've got lots on the horizon for that. So planning some exciting wedding dates maybe. I'm not going to go too far into this. I was just saying it's only fresh. We're only like 2 weeks into the engagement, so I'm just trying to enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. So once you've set a goal for yourself, do you have a particular system or strategy that you use to ensure that you achieve that goal?
Yeah, wake up every morning and get shit done. No, actually, that's probably partially true. If you don't write it down, it's not going to happen. So you have to write down your goals. There's actually a statistic saying that you have 70% more chance of achieving that goal if you write it down, period. Same with the business plan. But when it comes to strategies and processes, I go by the SMART rule. If it's like and I'll line item that one particular goal and work it around that. I definitely like to micro goal set. So you always look at the end line, so to speak, and then break it down from that, compartmentalize it, prioritize those small little stepping stones to get there. And that could just be like that 1%er. It could be, okay, I want to, lose weight, gain muscle, or whatever that would be. And, or we were talking about earlier is even, setting myself up to do my first triathlon that I did down in Byron Bay. And it just felt so far away to achieving that goal when I first sat down and said, that's what I want to do. So breaking it down, going, okay, well, there's obviously 3 disciplinaries to a triathlon, and I have to get good at each of them. Even if I'm not great, I have to be good. I have to be able to swim. I have to be able to run. Is just working out the small daily goals. What can I do today that's going to make me better tomorrow? And track it. Always help yourself accountable. Sort of like I said earlier, is that, you might have a coach, you might have a mentor that will help you stay accountable on track, but you've got to do the work. There's no one that's going to keep you accountable like you're going to keep yourself accountable. So, yeah, I would say, the SMART rule and writing things down to simplify it.
Doing the work.
Getting shit done.
Tell us a game-changing moment you've had in your life.
A game-changing moment?
You probably had more than one.
Winning my pro status. A lot of opportunities come from that. And I think at the time I just wanted that because it would give me opportunity to choose the direction of my career, or to be able to utilize that title, if you want to call it, to then go into the posing, coaching and the hosting and all that sort of thing. But that was pivotal for me to land my first cover of Oxygen magazine. I then had won Miss Supercars, so then I travelled with the Supercars, and I think that was a real pivotal moment and career change and highlight for me, because it did actually get me into a lot more speaking. I then toured with Supercars for years, did a lot of their big screen TV hosting, and it opened the doors to a lot of opportunities. So that one pivotal thing was probably that.
What year was that?
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
So you won the national title in Australia and then went to America, was it, to compete? And that's where you won the title?
Yep, that's when I won the world titles. In 2015 at Las Vegas. So that's when I went Bikini Pro. And then, so that was in August. And then literally I was just doing so much social media. My personal brand grew so much. And I think back then, and probably still now, is that when people see transformations before and afters of anything, and the easiest example is, your physical body changing, is people see what you were and what you are, and they go, well, how did you get there? So, and I just love sharing what I learn, and I love learning from you. So I was on Instagram every day. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm doing. Hey guys, I'm just doing cardio. I'm on the treadmill. I'm putting the time in. I'm putting the work in. And I guess along the way, without thinking about it, I probably inspired a lot of people, and naturally and organically my following sort of come from that. So that then opened the door to then when I wanted to create more of my brand and help other people, that led to Oxygen magazine cover, because then I got to do an interview with them, and then I totally got blown away. I got put on the cover. So then I got their their December-January issue, because they only did I think it was 11 issues a year, and one issue went for 2 months. So I did the summer edition. That was back in end of 2015-16. And then from there, then I won the Miss Supercar, the Supercars, and I think that went on for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow. All right, Katie, nutrition. What are your thoughts around diet and the importance of what you feed both your mind and your body?
I find that so simple. It's like, well, you get out what you put in, literally, right? So if you want to run optimally and you want to think clearly, then you've got to fuel your body with the right nutrition. Easier said than done, because I live a balanced diet, and I haven't tracked macros since I got off stage. I have been more intuitively eating, but I know that when I eat rubbish food, even though it's great at the time, I know that I'm not going to feel as energetic, and that's okay. But I think it's important to have a balanced lifestyle, but it's certainly what you put into your body is exactly how you're going to run. It's the same with a car. You put rubbish fuel in it, it's not going to do as optimally or run as optimally as what top of the range stuff is. So look, it's not cheap to feel good and look good, but it's certainly worth it, and that gives you health, and health is my highest value. Yeah. So it all just works in one big crazy way. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's obviously the same mentally, that what you're feeding your mind, so you're not putting any rubbish into your mind as well.
That's actually a really good point, because I think coming back to especially social media and Instagram, is that there can be a lot of toxicity in that, or we live in a world now where it can be, comparison, or, some call it in Australia the tall poppy syndrome, or in America you might have the keeping up with the Joneses, is that it's so easy, and I say this loosely, but even more as a female, is what you see is what you want. And when things look a certain part, then you feel that you're maybe lesser or less insignificant. And I think it's really important that if things don't actually motivate you and inspire you, educate you, or humour you, then unfollow that person in physical life, unfollow that person through social media, because what you fuel your mind is what you become. I think, what's the saying is if you want to know your future, show me your 5 closest friends. You are exactly a product of your environment. So if you fill your mind with rubbish, then that's what you're bringing into your life. And that can open a whole nother conversation about manifestation. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'd say. It's important. And look, no one's perfect, but I guess it's just pulling yourself up on it again and having that accountability.
Exactly. The biggest challenge you've ever faced, and how and what got you through that?
The biggest challenge? I've had sports injuries. I've had actually something that a lot of people don't know is I have severe scoliosis, which is a curve in your spine. And I always make a joke, because obviously my last name's Stevens. My spine is literally like an S. I have a double curve that my dance teacher, when I was 13, picked up on it. And she actually pulled my mum into the dance room after dance class and said, Katie, bend over and touch your toes. And she showed my mum the imbalance in my spine. And I went to at the time I lived up in Hervey Bay, and my mum drove me to Brisbane, and we went to a back specialist, and they said, look, you're doing the right things. You're exercising, you're training, you're doing basketball, sport, dancing, everything in between. This is really good for your muscle. But if you don't do that, right now where you're at, you're in I think I was about 3 degrees off a permanent back brace and surgery, and may not have been able to walk. So even though I was young back then, I think that literally scared me enough, with the mindset of fear, going, if I don't look after my body, then that's where I'm going to be. So I think that's why health and fitness has always been so important to me. And I was young, but I know that I had to go back like a year later, and I had tracked really well with just, keeping strong and fit at that age. I was doing sports aerobics and quite competitively. So I think that's probably always stuck with me in the back of my mind. And overcoming it is I just kept training and I just kept doing what I was doing, but I found a new love for it to look into different sports in different ways, because I knew that if I didn't and I did have that weakness, then that was going to lead to a whole world of issues.
Yeah. Is it still giving you problems now?
I wouldn't say I've ever had problems. I've been lucky enough to not have like the physical pain just through sport alone. And when I was competing high up with basketball, I had pinched like my sciatic nerve and done some hamstring hammies over the time, and that sort of, I guess, maybe was a byproduct of having scoliosis. So I went through a bit of rehab for that. But again, you know what? I can feel it if I haven't trained. I know the aches will come, the pain will come. But for me, I'm like, well, you know what? Stay strong, stay fit. And hopefully then, yeah, I guess I'll be good.
So favourite hobby or activity?
Hobby activity. I'm super sporty. I love anything that will give me a bit of adrenaline. And then I love connection. But I'm here now doing a podcast, and I would say this is actually a hobby. Can it be a hobby? Yeah.
It could be.
I think, I went through a phase, Magnus, where I was doing so many podcasts and interviews and things like that. And to be honest, I stopped doing them because I was like, well, what more value do I have? And I probably did question myself on where I was at in my life. How could I really inspire people when I was struggling in, life and business, and what my next, personal goals were? And I did take a massive step back, and just in these last few months, I've had a lot more clarity, actually probably longer than that, but I've had more clarity where I'm like, I can give back again. And I love podcasts. I love a hobby of mine, if you haven't noticed, is speaking. Can that be a hobby too?
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Okay, I'm going to say my hobbies are podcasting, anything with a bit of adrenaline. Yeah, I'd try anything once when it comes to sporting and stuff.
Okay, if you could change one thing in the world, Katie, what would that be?
One thing in the world. Can I please have more time? Can it be time? That would be nice. If we only have like 24 hours a day, I think if I could change one thing in the world, it'd be more time.
I think if you had more time, you'd just find ways to fill it.
Probably. That's literally the first thing that comes to my mind, because I feel like it's always like, just if I had more time. If I could change one thing in the world, cliche, but for people to actually have self-belief, and like you mentioned before, is to rid those self-limiting beliefs, because although we're all different, is that if we had that, if we harnessed our true core, what we were capable of, and just completely indoctrinated our mindsets in that, I think the world would be a better place.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well said. Success habits. Name 3 things that you do consistently every day.
Okay, well, don't know that I do everything every single day consistently, but I definitely have like my non-negotiables. I don't know if you call this a success habit, but every single morning I have a shower and I go hot, cold. I love cold exposure. I learned that exercise, actually got deep into what's his name?
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof, yes, thank
you.
you.
So you've done the ice bath.
I did, yes. I've done ice bath challenges. I've raised money for a girlfriend's business, but raised money for a foundation doing the ice bath challenge. And then I went to a seminar with Tony Robbins, and he was explaining all the benefits of that. And to me, at first I was doing it for physical recovery. And I was like, you have DOMs training hard, when you're body sculpting, and it sort of speeds up that process, right? But the mindset that I got from it, when I feel like that clouded mindset, you've got too much going on, the chaos, I find that cold exposure therapy is just phenomenal. So every morning I'll always finish my shower on cold. I'm yet to get my own ice bath, actually, which I would love to have, but I also go to the pools locally down on the Gold Coast, and I find that's just insane. And that changes like the mindset of it sets me up for the day. Like I'm ready to go, get good energy from that. Another thing, successful habits in the morning. You know what? A lot come from the night before. Can I say that? I used to start talking about what I needed to do in the morning to set myself up for success. And you talk about, win the morning, win your day. But I'm like, you actually have to win the night before. Because if you're out and your habits the night before are late nights, alcohol, bad food, what do you call it, Netflix or trash TV, and you're going to bed late, you've probably got a really high chance of not actually getting up and succeeding in the morning. So having that strong nightly routine, having you close out for the next morning so you just don't, it's a one less thing to think about. Dimming the lights and things like that. I have some little weird quirky habits. So I like to, get off the light. My partner and I actually took our phones out of the rooms just to see if we slept better. And that actually worked really well. So just little things along the way. But I'd always say like the secret sauce in having great, successful daily habits lies within the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Your biggest regret?
Waiting. Okay, this is actually almost like contradictory to what I said earlier, because I was like, patience, that's what I'm learning, and a lesson. But I'm going to say, regret is waiting. Because I know that there's a right timing for everything, and I believe in the divinity of the universe and, all that. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. But, I also think that sitting on your hands and waiting for that opportunity to come can set you back. And I probably would say, and I'd like to say I don't have regrets, but if I was to ever sit there and, be reflecting on a goal that I've achieved, it would always be, I wish I did it sooner. I wish I didn't have that inner conflict with myself, talking myself out of why I couldn't do that triathlon. I wish that I did do the marathon, the half marathon, a few years before, because I was capable of it. But it's like I mentally was like, oh, not this year, maybe next year, until I really get the hype up from my coach at the time to actually be, sign this dotted line right now, Katie, before you walk out. I was like, oh, I'm in. And I joined a team. So I think for me to get that over the line, I was like, well, I'm not going to let my team down, right? Yeah. Otherwise, I probably would have procrastinated more. But I would say biggest regret would be, waiting.
How true is that though? There's a lot of talk about that with people, that you end up, you do something and then, you just, I wish I would have done that earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think, we're all capable of it, and we procrastinate and then wait a little bit too long, and you can achieve a lot more.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Describe what a typical week looks like for you, Katie.
I'm going to keep this short because no week is typically the same. I'm just a massive fan of time blocking. So we've all got same amount of days in the week, Monday to Friday. Being that I do have multiple businesses, I certainly don't, and probably actually a common question I'm asked is, how do you run so many businesses every day? I'm like, well, I don't jump between businesses every day. It's time blocked where I know that, my Mondays, I literally set myself up for the week ahead. I'll chat to the team, work out what our marketing strategies are across, Sprayed, what events we've got coming up. When it comes to minding her business, obviously, if we have an event coming up, that's going to take a lot more of my time. So typically a week doesn't look the same, but what does look the same and that I try and be quite habitual with is having a good strict routine. So training and that, depending on what time it is for me, as to what training I'll do, whether I do, strength training in the gym, or if I'm not feeling it and I just feel like a little bit tight, then I'll commit at the beginning of the week to at least a good couple of Pilates sessions. But I can honestly say that every week is different, but I'm always planned. So I always know what's to come.
Work in the plan.
Work in the plan. Plan in the work. Yep.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? Oh, this is a hard one. I'm proud of believing in myself, because there's certainly been times in my life where people haven't believed in me. And at those times when it counted the most, believing in myself had the best, most positive, and not just talking about success in business, but positive outcomes for me. Whether that be leaving a relationship, whether that be ending a friendship, whether that be making a decision I was 16, I think, when I moved to France, and I wanted to go over there and experience what that was like. And put all my savings into that. And I look back and I was like, whoa, that was really courageous. I don't know if my, older self now would be so bold in making big decisions, but I guess I'm proud of myself for believing in me, because at the time I didn't really think of the consequences. I just thought of the outcome.
What makes you laugh?
On cue, starts laughing. I don't know. A day without laughter is like a day wasted. I laugh every day.
Yeah, it's every contagious.
Day. I don't want to say like I laugh at myself, like taking the mickey of myself, but I I definitely say some silly things sometimes, but people around me, I'm surrounded by good people. My partner makes me laugh every single day. Even if it's pathetically stupid and I know it's not funny, I will laugh. And my friends, actually, I literally was just voice noting my best friend the other night, and we had a conversation and we were in hysterics of laughter that we couldn't even talk and we didn't even know what we're talking about. But I'm like, this is like the best medicine, right?
How good is it?
It is. It actually is. There's this like method to, I've seen these YouTube videos and I've heard speakers talk about it. It's like, this is really weird and whack, but it's like, you know, your energy levels start dropping. So you do like this woosah, you do like these breathing exercises, and it's like force out a fake laugh and it will become real. And so you sit there and you're like in a room and you're like, and you actually just start laughing. You're like, this is ridiculous. But my dad always said, you know what, laughter's the best medicine. You don't need, if you've got laughter, you've got love, you've got happiness. So I don't know, I guess friends and family make me laugh. Yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Three good books that you could recommend for us.
Okay, 3 good books. All right. I wouldn't say I'm a serial reader, but I like to read books in business, personal development, expansive mindset. There's a couple of like solid standouts that I've read multiple times and actually done the Audible as well. The One Thing, Gary Keller. So that focuses on or helps you learn the tools to focus on that one thing at the time, which is very imperative in my life because I know I have a lot of moving parts, but focusing on what's important at that time.
How hard is that though? You find that difficult?
Reading?
No, focusing on one thing at a time.
Look, I'm not diagnosed, but I certainly am on the spectrum for ADHD. I try to say I use it to my advantage when I can, but I certainly have awareness around it. It is hard because sometimes I feel like there's so many things going on in my head, I just lose track. But if I set out my processes and know, right, Katie, this is where you are, this is what you're doing, I'll get it done. I'm certainly not a procrastinator. I'll definitely make a decision and go from there, which is probably a difference between like, you know, me and some of my close friends or family or whatever. But that's a good book. And actually, speaking of multiple things, on that, I can find that I'll read a book and I might have to read that same, you know, chapter or that same paragraph 4 or 5 times because my head is somewhere else. Yep. But I'm like, hang on, bring it back, focus on the one thing. I've read that book 3 times now and it's actually so simple but so effective. Book number 2, James Clear, Atomic Habits. Yep. It's really good.
That's a cracker. I love that. Yeah. Yes.
So it's all about like just that 1% better every single day. It's about, you know, putting in the work. It's about, if you haven't read it, highly recommend. It's just changing those habits, all the good habits, the bad habits for good ones, and then how to find those good habits and working on them.
Habit stacking.
Habit stacking, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And Sexy Happy Millionaire by Stephen Bartlett. That's a really cool book. It's more about his life, and it's more about like personal happiness. You can have all the money in the world. You can have every, you know, thing that you want materialistically. But if you're not happy within yourself, are you really truly happy? So that was a really good one. I've read that once and then I audibled it as well. There's some really good golden nuggets in that.
I've done that with a few books as well because I find that I get that little bit extra out of either of those options by having read the book and then listening to the Audible or listening to the Audible and then reading the book. I've just found on the really good books, I highly recommend that, doing both.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And even just when your mind just goes thinking of other things when you're distracted, and actually a little tip I do when I'm reading a physical book is I have a highlighter. And I highlight just those core standout sentences. And once I've finished that chapter, I'll go back and do a little recap because it's so easy just to move on to the next thing and forget. But Audible is, I feel like it's a bit of subconscious learning too when it's books like that because you could just be driving, thinking about other things and just hearing it again.
Taking it in.
Yeah, definitely. But they're probably top 3. Yeah. Top 3.
You got a top tip or the best advice that you could give us?
Advice. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. It's the first thing that comes to mind is that it doesn't matter what you want to do in life, what you want to achieve. And we talk about all this success and goals and everything through today's podcast. And the truth is life also has to be enjoyed between these goals. As much as I'm extremely motivated, is that find what's fun for you. And if you have to time block it, or you have to set time aside where it's, a date with yourself in your diary, is do things. Is we're not here for a long time. I've experienced, some close friends passing at way too young of an age. And I think that's been a huge eye opener for me, is that tomorrow's not promised. Is don't take life too seriously. It's I get stuck in, the hamster on the wheel of wanting to, help more people and do more and say yes and work the rest out later. But between all the chaos, you've got to be happy and you've got to enjoy life. And if you don't enjoy life, then, something's going to give. So, yeah, if you're not happy with the job, quit. Do something different. It's there's no point going through life being miserable. It's just way too short.
Great advice. All right, last question. Finish this sentence. I believe.
I believe that we are all capable of achieving greatness. I believe that with every breakdown, there's an opportunity to have a breakthrough. And I think that when you have an adversity, or you have something that's stopping you and that's giving you all these, negative thoughts, that with adversity is opportunity. It's so easy to hear these taglines and quotes, but it is true. And I think that we all, will have shitty cards dealt over time and over the years, but there's always light. There is always light. So I believe, that we're all capable of greatness. Yeah.
That is an awesome way to finish. Thank you so much for coming in, Katie. It's been an absolute pleasure, very insightful. I love your passion. I love your energy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. I've loved chatting off air and learning all about what you're doing as well. So exciting things coming up. And thank you for having me. 26 is my lucky number too. So when we started chatting and I saw M26 FIT, I love everything it cultivates. So I think it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for joining in on today's episode, and I hope this Strong Mind, Strong Body series empowers and inspires you. Make sure you've subscribed to our channel and leave a comment if you enjoyed today's podcast. You can also check out our website for more info about M26 FIT at m26fit.au.